The cartographer's redemption hook. The first time they laughed at my dream, I thought it was just nerves. The second time, I told myself it was pride. But the third, when my own sister stood in our family's worn kitchen, sneering at the hand-drawn maps scattered across the table, calling them childish scribbles, while my father nodded in agreement, I knew. I knew that this moment, this raw, ugly dismissal, would be the last time I ever let their voices define my worth. Painful departure and relentless pursuit. I left that house with nothing but the clothes on my back and a duffel bag full of maps. My urban analysis project, my project, had been stolen weeks earlier, its credit stolen by Dr. Elena Vasquez, a rival who'd wormed her way into my workspace under the guise of collaboration. When I'd protested, the university dismissed me as unstable, my family echoing their doubts. But as I walked away, I felt something else. Clarity. The maps weren't just lines and data points. They were stories of how cities felt, how spaces shaped human emotion, how loneliness lurked in alleyways and hope thrived in community gardens. I became a psychogeographer. It was a lonely obsession. I spent nights in libraries, devouring psychology journals, urban planning texts, and philosophy papers, desperate to prove that cities weren't just concrete and steel. They were living organisms with secrets to unlock. My peers scoffed. Pseudoscience, they called it. But I kept going, sketching mental maps of neighborhoods, tracking how architecture influenced behavior, how neglected corners bred despair or sparked creativity. For years, I worked in obscurity, pitching my ideas to communities, refining my methods, until one day everything clicked. Arduous ascension and triumph. The Rust Belt town of Millhaven hired me on a whim, a last-ditch effort to rehabilitate its decaying core. The mayor called my psychogeographic approach unconventional, but I'd already seen what others missed. The way the cracked playground stirred anxiety in parents, how the abandoned mall's shadow choked the street's energy. I mapped it all, then proposed something radical: transform barren lots into interactive art installations, redesign streetscapes to encourage gatherings, plant gardens in forgotten spaces. 6 months later, Millhaven's unemployment had dropped by 30%. Its streets buzzed with farmers' markets and block parties. Dr. Vasquez, now a celebrated academic, tried to co-opt my work, but the townspeople rallied behind me. I'd given them something irreplaceable, a blueprint for joy. My reputation exploded. Cities from Detroit to Lisbon sought my expertise, and suddenly the pseudoscientist was a keynote speaker, a best-selling author, a consultant for the United Nations. But success wasn't enough. Not until I could go home. Cathartic return and poetic justice. 2 years later, I stood in our old neighborhood with my parents and sister, now invited to unveil a community center named in my honor. They'd heard rumors. He's gone soft, writing books about urban feelings, but seeing their faces as I led them through the revitalized streets of Millhaven, that was worth the wait. This, I said, gesturing to a mural-covered plaza where children played and elders napped on benches, was built using psychogeographic principles. Every color, every curve, every tree placement is designed to foster connection. My mother frowned, but my father's eyes widened. He recognized the maps I'd drawn years ago, the same ones they'd mocked, now displayed on a plaque in the center. Then came the hardest part. Elena Vasquez, I continued, nodding to a photo on the wall showing her shaking hands with the mayor, deserved every bit of credit. She helped fund the first phase. The room fell silent. My sister stepped forward, her voice small. You forgave her," I smiled. "I forgave myself for letting their voices drown out mine, for believing I needed their approval to matter." Resolution later, as we toured the greenhouse built atop the old abandoned mall, its hydroponic gardens now feeding half the neighborhood, I caught my father staring at my hands. They trembled slightly, calloused from months of sketching and planting. "I never thought," he muttered. "You never thought what? That you'd find a way to make dirt and dreams profitable. It was a start." My mother hugged me at the airport, her tears silent but her grip fierce. My sister sent a follow-up email last week, 3 paragraphs of questions about my next project. Dr. Vasquez. She faded into irrelevance, her stolen work now an asterisk in my bibliography. Karma doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, through the laughter of children in a park you designed, the hum of a community alive because you refused to stop seeing what others couldn't. I learned that day, the loudest mockery is just fear in disguise. And the best revenge, building something beautiful enough that even your doubters have to pause and wonder.